Good morning, guys. Welcome back to the garden. I'm Elias Castillo and I am with EMC Outdoors, and it has been a year since I bought my house and I have been working on it since day one. It's been just over a year. It's been about a year and 4 days or something like that. So I kind of want to do a video and show you guys what has happened in 1 year. So if you remember, I took down a bunch of trees that were here. There was one right here, there was a mulberry tree right here, and right to this side there was a big maple tree, and then there was a small black walnut that we took down. The reason for taking those down is some of them were kind of dying and they looked a little bit dangerous to be close to the house, so we had to take those down. But now we have plenty of sun coming into our space and we can grow a lot of vegetables. So let me show you what the project looks like 1 year later. This area back here is what I call the back orchard, and this is where I planted my fruit trees. You can see one right here, that is the peach tree, and then all the other ones are doing well. I had to clip one of them very close to the ground because the cicadas got to the stem, so I had to cut those off. I'll show you those what it looks like. And the English walnut actually never sprouted out, so it was kind of a dud, so it died. In reality, I think it was going to be too big for the space anyway, so that's okay. But throughout this summer, I have been growing a ton of vegetables in this space. I have been growing a lot of tomatoes and a lot of squash right on this vine here. You can see there's a squash hanging there that I missed, so now we're gonna have to save it for a winter squash. But this vine right here up against the fence has been prolific, and you can see the peach tree is doing pretty good, and unfortunately its brother or sister had to be shut down, like I said. But look at the other ones, they're doing pretty good. That's the pear tree back there, and then there's a cherry tree way in the back, and then an apple tree. I'm pretty happy with the results here. We have had quite a lot of successes. This peach tree here has grown about 4 feet. No, I'm sorry, maybe 3 feet. And then the peach tree down here had to be cut down, but you can still see a little bit of the stump here, and I'm hoping next year it will grow to a full-blown tree. The pear tree is doing pretty good. This one has grown quite a bit, all the way up there. I'm actually thinking about lopping it a little bit because it's a little flimsy and I don't think it's going to do too well being that way. We also have the Asian pear here. It didn't grow a whole lot, but it has grown out some leaves and I think it's going to be okay. The cicadas, what they do is they burrow into the stem and they lay eggs there. And some of the trees don't mind that, but some of the trees, the stem dies off and you lose the tree or you lose the branch. I'm pretty happy with my gala apple. It's doing pretty good. It's got a little bit of aphids here. I've had a lot of aphids in this property. I've never had issues with aphids before, but I've been just spraying them with water, like my hose. I put it on the jet option and they just fly off, and that seems to do the trick. I also have the wall of beans here. It's a huge wall of just beans. You can see all the beans here, they're growing. They also have aphids, so I need to spray them down again, just with water. I haven't tried to spray them with anything else because I saw a ton of ladybugs that came in and kind of started helping. So I don't want to kill those ladybugs by spraying something else. I grew a watermelon plant and I only got a single watermelon right here. But it is still growing and it's still doing pretty well. It is humongous. I'm gonna put my hand there. Look, it's pretty big. It's like grocery store size. The stem is still not, it's still green. And when this starts turning gray a little bit, that's when it's ready. But I'm gonna have to harvest it pretty soon because our first frost could be in about 2-3 weeks. So I might have to do some harvesting. I've also grown, this is the cherry tree here. It has 2 grafts and one of the grafts is doing better than the other. So we'll see We'll see which one does best, but I think it's going to be fine. Right over here I have Kayla eating some grass, like always. And then I have this huge North Georgia Candy Roaster squash. And I was supposed to grow it on this trellis here, but it did not grow on the trellis, it grew on the ground, so that's fine. I grew some peppers along here this time. And there's a couple more squashes on the trellis itself. And I have sweet potatoes in the ground here. So there's still one more harvest here to do with the sweet potatoes. And hopefully, these are Japanese or Korean purple potatoes I bought at the grocery store. I have a couple eggplants here. Check that out. One more there, one more here. I grew these guys from seeds. If you guys remember that video back in February, I grew some seeds. And then I have some Sweet 100 tomatoes. I have harvested, no joke, 30 pints of cherry tomatoes. I've eaten a bunch of them and I've given away a lot of them, and now I'm freezing a ton of them as well. To my left, I have a ton of, I made this trellis out of bamboo, and I worked up all the tomatoes onto the trellis, and they are dying down obviously, but the tomatoes did so well this year. They did so well. I had maybe over close to 60 pounds of tomatoes this year, and I've made sauce with them and put them in the freezer, so that has been pretty nice. Over here I have another compost going. This has been pretty good compost that I'm making here, and this is the remnants of all the compost, all the debris that came out of the back orchard. So it has done quite well this year. It has gone down a lot. I'm hoping that in about a year I'm going to be able to use this guy. I don't really want to use it before the 1 or 2 year mark, because there's a lot of invasive stuff in here. The bamboo grass is all in here being composted, and I want to make sure that it rots before I put it back on top of the soil. I don't want that growing anywhere anymore. One more thing I have growing here is the Jerusalem artichokes, and these right here, they're like a sunflower kind of deal, but they grow a tuber and you eat the root. And I had another plant over there, but it died, so I'm glad I got this guy here, because otherwise I would have lost the seed potato. I took it from my other garden and I started planting it here, so now that's doing pretty good. And that's basically the back orchard. So now I want to show you the front garden. Before we go to the front, I want to show you this side garden. This is a fence, and I have a squash plant growing all over it. I harvested about 5 or 6 big pumpkins that are for winter, so I'm gonna have plenty of those to store for the winter. And I also have harvested the stuff from the raised beds. It's hard to see the raised beds here right now. It's gonna be a bit of a trial to grow something here, because the sun, it's gonna go lower on the horizon, and this is facing north, so I'm not sure if it's gonna get enough sun, but I think I am going to be able to harvest a few greens from here before the end of the fall. Back in the summer I was a little worried when I planted this corn over here, and I was worried that I wasn't going to have enough time to harvest it or to let it mature, but it has grown very well back here and it has done really well. Also, you can see back here I have a ton of peas. These are southern peas, and I'm letting them dry, and then I'm going to be just using them as dry beans or dry peas for soups in the fall and winter. So the more I work in the garden, the more I harvest and the more I learn. I have learned this year that I want to grow more vegetables that are easier to store. For example, the winter squashes, they do really well. They don't require a lot of attention, and you can save them very long amount of times in your basement or somewhere in your house that is cool enough. And I want to be growing stuff that is easy to store away, because you know, tomatoes are great, but you have to can them, you have to freeze them, you have to do stuff with them right away. And in the middle of summer when it is hot and you have to do all this work, you want to have a variety of fruits and vegetables that you can have and store for the winter months. So these southern peas that I grew here are amazing. They just grow low, close to the ground, so they're a bush type of pea, and the pod grows, and you can eat it green as a green bean, or you can let it go to seed and dry out. So what I've been doing is I let it go dry out, and then now I'm harvesting the dry pods, and I can store those indefinitely. They will last years. I just cooked some beans the other day, and I had been storing those for 2 years. So I'm hoping to be able to grow more of such foods, such types of foods that are easy to store. So if you have a space for it, grow some southern peas, and they do really well. Okay, last but not least, I want to show you my front garden. This space is crazy. I have grown a lot of vegetables in my day, but I've never grown so many in one place. So this area right here, I gotta say, it's maybe like 35 feet by about 30 feet, and I am growing a ton of vegetables here. What I did is I covered the lawn with wood chips, and that killed the lawn, right? And I live in Virginia, so there's a lot of heavy clay soil here, and that is helping to grow some vegetables. So the front, I kind of decided to make it all flowers so that my neighbors enjoy the flowers. And then behind that, I've been growing a ton of different things. So I have a couple of raised beds there, and I'm growing peppers, hibiscus, eggplants, and basil. And at the front here, you can see I have a ton of flowers. I have this bed right here that is just beautiful flowers at the front. So I have some dahlias, some Thai basil that is covered in flowers, more dahlias over here. I have lemongrass growing at the front, and we have a hedge of just zinnias all up front. So you can make it beautiful. And look at those butterflies flying out there, man. They love this kind of stuff. This is a beautiful space, and it's environmentally friendly. You don't have to spend any money on lawn care, and luckily I live in a place where there is no HOA, so this is allowed here. But I want to maintain it well, right? So I want to keep it trimmed and beautiful for the neighbors, so nobody hates me too much. So I hope that you guys are inspired to grow some vegetables. Maybe not as radical as I have done here with the big front garden, but you can grow a tiny bed, and you can grow your own mint, you can grow your own herbs, and you can be a little bit more sustainable. Make sure that you have you know, just a little bit of something growing in your yard, and once that little seed has been planted, metaphorically and in reality, it can grow from there, and you can grow a lot more food than you think in a very small amount of space. The next video that I'm going to be making is going to be raised containers or container gardening. So for those people that live in apartments, they can do this as well. So thank you guys so much for watching, and it's been a year and it's been fun. I've grown a lot and I've learned a lot from this gardening here, and I hope next year is going to be even more productive because I won't have to be working on the projects to set up the beds. I'm just going to be focusing more on soil. I want to make a lot more compost this year, and I'm going to be bringing in more wood chips for the backyard so I can make it even more fertile. So please subscribe to the channel and follow my journey as I turn this property into a food forest. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys on the next video.